So you've heard me say before that the three gods of the world with a small g are sex, money, and power. And you've heard me say that that's why we Marian fathers and all consecrated religious in the world take the three vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. Because poverty overcomes the small g god of the world of money. Chastity overcomes the small g god of the world of sex. And obedience overcomes the small g god of the world of power. And I always ended it there. But what if you are not religious? Well, I mean, we're all religious. If you're not consecrated, you're not a nun or a sister or a priest or a brother, what then? Father, I didn't take vows of poverty. I have a home and a car and I pay my bills. So what for us? The answer is right here. Prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. Why is that? Because prayer is a denial of pleasure. Fasting is a denial of pleasure. We deny ourselves. So the first thing to overcome this small g god of the world of the seeking of pleasure, putting it above and beyond everything else in our current lifestyle, do what feels good. Fasting helps control the flesh, puts the flesh under the control of the spirit. Next is, what about the small g god of the world of money? That's almsgiving. Because now you are giving of that, your riches or your finances, or even the widow with the 2 coins, giving what we have for others, especially in terms of financial assistance. So almsgiving is a beautiful way for the laity to overcome the small g god of the world of money. And then what about power? Power is being in control. Now, the best thing for the laity there is prayer, because prayer acknowledges, I need help. I have to surrender. I'm not in charge. I am not in control. God is. So it occurred to me this morning as I was praying in our morning, I do the meditation here, the holy hour before our morning prayer and the divine office, that I've always talked about it from the religious standpoint of poverty, chastity, and obedience in the vows. But for the laity, for all of you, the answer is prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. Now, Ash Wednesday is the first day of Lent. This is a time of prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. But a lot of people think that Lent is 40 days. Is that true? Is Lent 40 days? It's actually 46. It occurs, 46 days before Easter, because 40 days are fasting and there's 6 Sundays in between when we don't fast. So it's interesting. It's actually longer than 40 days the season, but there's 40 fasting days. Now, it can come as early as February 4th or as late as March 10th. So we're on the early side this year. Surprisingly, it's not a holy day of obligation, but every Sunday is. And you've heard me say this before. Do you know Ash Wednesday is more well attended than many Sundays? Well, this is not right either. You should go to both, but you need to go to Sunday, and every Sunday. Now, Ash Wednesday comes from the ancient Jewish tradition of penance and fasting. And so Jesus mentioned it. He said, remember this, if the mighty works done in you had been done in Tyre and Sidon, they would have repented long ago, sitting in sackcloth and ashes. Now, ashes symbolize the dust from which God made us. But this is a sacramental. People come on Ash Wednesday thinking of the ashes as being the most important thing. these are just sacramentals, the ashes. The Eucharist is the sacrament. And so our foreheads are marked with these ashes to remind us that life passes away on earth, right? Remember Genesis? Man is dust, and until dust he shall return. As Father Tyler and I distribute the ashes, we will say, repent and believe in the gospel, or you are dust, and to dust you shall return. Now, this was first called Ash Wednesday back in the year 1091, centuries before there was anything but the Catholic Church. Pope Urban II, he's also the one who called the Crusades. And so, but it goes even before that. There's writings from all the way back in the 2nd century about wearing ashes and as a sign of penance. And so why? Why do we do this for a period of 40 days of fasting? Well, obviously, Christ in the desert, you know this, spent 40 days. Moses, you know that, spent 40 days in repenting for the golden calf, prayer, fasting, and repenting. But it also follows the example of the Ninevites. Remember that? They did penance in sackcloth and ashes. Later in Christianity, if people had committed grave sin, they had to do public penance. I've said before, how would you like that? People think the church is too hard. Well, you know, they used to have to do public penance and sit in front of the church announcing what they had done. And then on Ash Wednesday, the bishop would sprinkle ashes made from the palms that were burned from the previous year. And the penitents were removed from the church because of their sins. Now, what does that sound like? Adam, the first man who was thrown out of the garden because of his disobedience. So the church knew what she was doing, and she would take those penitents, those sinners, and would remove them from the church. But the beautiful thing was they could do penance, so they could return. So they did not enter the church again until after 40 days of penance and confession. Now we complain when we got to go once a year to confession. No. Today even, and this is interesting, Ash Wednesday is kind of interesting because even non-Christians and those excommunicated can receive ashes. Really? Non-Christians and excommunicated? Yeah. They can be traced on the forehead or sprinkled. That's more traditional. Also, the Catholic Church does not limit distribution of blessed ashes into just within churches. Priests go out and do them on the streets of New York City. I've seen that. And so some priests, as I said, I should say, you don't even have to be a priest to distribute the ashes. Non-priests can distribute the ashes. But it's not really appropriate to keep your ashes on and then go out shopping or go to a movie or go do sports or recreate. That's really not proper after receiving the ashes. Those times that you would actually wash them off. Kind of like our Bible says today, wash your face. But we do leave them on if we're maintaining a reverent day of prayer and fasting. And so it's also not required for us to wear the ashes the whole day, as I just said. And this is why a lot of times ashes are sprinkled over your head as a different way. Now to finish, Ash Wednesday and Good Friday, I'm going to remind you, these are days of both fasting and abstinence, okay? Now, it's fasting for healthy Catholics age 18 to 59. So if you're age 18 to 59, today is a day of fast. This means, and it's not that hard, 1 normal meal and 2 smaller meals that do not equal a full meal. Come on, not that bad. It's not. So try to do even more if you can. We try not to jeopardize health. My mom was one who couldn't because of her severe diabetes. We're not asking that. The church doesn't ask that. But Ash Wednesday and Good Friday are also days of abstinence, which means no meat. And that's for everyone, age 14 to no matter how old you are, to 100. So today is both. Now, I'm also going to remind you, because you've heard me say this before, all Fridays are actually a day of penance. So you can't eat meat, technically, on any Friday of the whole year. We Marians don't eat meat on any Fridays except if a solemnity falls or in the octave of Easter. Now, you say, Father, that's not church teaching. Actually, it is. The church still teaches. We don't eat meat on Friday, any Friday, not just Fridays in Lent. However, due to our weakness, the USCCB issued an indult that on Fridays outside of Lent, you can eat meat, but you still must replace another form of penance. Now in Lent, no meat on any Friday, no matter what. You can't replace it with something else. And so the fast on Good Friday is very important. Ash Wednesday, this fast, very important. Why? It's usually obviously mentioned with fasting, prayer, and almsgiving, as we just talked about. But by fasting, we are controlling the passions of the body. Again, the small g, God of the world of sex, but it's not just sexual pleasure, it's any pleasure. It's the flesh controlling the spirit. And when we control the flesh by the Spirit, we then free our souls for prayer. Very important. And by refraining from eating, we free up food or the money that we would spend on food that we can give to the poor. That's true almsgiving. Almsgiving is not giving out of your surplus. Almsgiving is taking the money that you were going to use for something for you and giving that up and giving it to someone else. So by fasting, that $15 that you would have spent on lunch, you can now put into a poor box, for example. Now the church calls us to practice all three together: prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, especially during Lent. So as we said, refraining from food can help us bring our bodies under control of our spirits. Very important. It's also a way of doing penance for past sins, to atone. So this is good. The church recommends it. And you know, I put this out last year. Do you know that Lent is exactly 10% of the year? 10% of the calendar year. What a perfect tithe to give back to God of your time. Remember, time is the thing we hold to, we value the most, even more the human than even more than money. And another thing is our time. And so I read somewhere one saint said, the currency of friendship is time. That's when you really know who's your friend. And it broke my heart when I was in Europe and then the Holy Land that when our beloved Giuseppe had his stroke, that I couldn't be with him. And so then I came back to the U.S. I had to address a couple critical issues in the province. And then yesterday, I had a large conference that we could not cancel, local here. But today, boom, getting out there to spend time with him, to be with him, somebody that I love dearly. That's what God asks of us. If you love him dearly, spend some time with him. And that's exactly what Lent gives, 10% of the calendar year. What a perfect tithe. Give this time to God, to the one you love. You know, giving up food's not bad. People say, well, give up sin. No, because giving something up means that you can later enjoy it. You can't give up sin and then later enjoy it. So Food is not bad, but giving up good things helps us to focus on what is better, God. And it's a way to give up lesser goods to attain the greatest good. And that is God. And so let us this Lent reflect on what we want to do to not just give up something, but what we want to change something. Is it too much time on our cell phones or our television or internet? Is it not enough time with the Lord? Is it being kinder to others? Is it doing more prayer, more fasting, and more almsgiving? Whatever it is that the Lord's calling you to do this Lent, it's going to pull you out of your comfort zone. And when we're pulled out of our comfort zone, by our human nature, we don't like it. But this is an opportunity to deny ourselves, pick up our cross, and follow Christ.